Hello and welcome to this next Flip Preaching video. My name's Andy and we're going to look at the Gospel passage for the Sunday to come so we can get our heads around it before then. So this week we're switching to John's Gospel for a bit now. It's John 6, 1 to 21, and there are two connected bits. There's the feeding of the 5,000 and Jesus walking on the water. And as we'll see, they're kind of connected. They don't just happen to be next to each other. So many people will know the story of the feeding of the 5,000, but I want to explore some of the connections to the Old Testament within this. I think they're really important to understand what's going on here. John makes this really clear. He kind of points us in the direction because there's a little throwaway comment near the start. In verse 4, he says, "Now the Passover, the festival of the Jews, was near." So we immediately got this cue to think back to the Passover, to the Exodus story. Okay, so after the Exodus had happened and the people had left and were then in the wilderness, they begin to grumble, they begin to worry about where they're going to get food from and say that it'd be better if we had stayed back in the land of Egypt. This is Exodus 16, 2 to 4. We get the first bit of this. And then God very graciously says through Moses, "I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you." So in a way, in the John story of Jesus, again in a kind of wild place on the edge of the sea. Remember, the sea represents chaos. This is on the edge of the sea. This is like the wilderness. God once again provides bread for the masses who were kind of a bit unsure about where they were going to be fed by. We get a bit of that questioning in there, with Philip saying 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for them each to get a little. We get a bit of that sort of, people trying to worry about how it's going to work, and God instead providing this abundant supply of bread from heaven. Very much reminiscent of the Exodus story. Jesus is announcing a new Exodus, saving people once more. After the feeding of the 5,000 incident, it says when evening came, the disciples get into a boat and set out onto the sea. It was dark, and it says Jesus had not yet come to them. And then the sea became rough, and they're rowing around, and then they see Jesus walking on the sea, coming near the boat. And Jesus says, "It is I, do not be afraid." Now again, going back to the Old Testament, there are some wonderful verses here which help to unpack some of what's going on here beneath the surface. On the one level, you can read this as a simple miracle story. But if you remember in Genesis 1, right at the start, it says that the earth was a formless void and darkness covered the face of the deep. And then a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. So you've got this view of chaos and disorder, and then God appearing over the top of the water to bring a new creation. In a way, that's what Jesus is doing here. He's saying that this is a new creation, something new is beginning. The chaos and turmoil and fear and all of that, that's going to be calm. There's a new thing coming. In Job 9:8, we learn that it says, "Who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea?" There was an understanding that only God could walk on the water. Only God had the power to stop the chaos. So Jesus appearing, walking on the water, is a clear sign that he indeed is God. This is one of the places where it becomes really clear that Jesus is God. And in fact, when Jesus spoke to the people in the boat, in the English translation we've got here, his first words are, "It is I." But in the original version that John wrote, it was "I am," ego eimi, I am, which is of course the name of God. Again, linking us back to Exodus. Just before the Passover, when Moses was doubting his credentials, when he said, when I go to the people, who will I say sent me? And God reveals God's name, saying, I am who I am. So in this walking on the water, Jesus appears calming the storm, walking on the seas, just like in Genesis, saying, I am. Announcing that out of the chaos and the turmoil, he's going to bring a new creation, a new exodus, saving his people, providing them with abundance of blessing if they just let go of the thing that was trapping them. If they're happy to come out of Egypt, God will provide. So there's so much going on in this story, which I love all of this bit. So a few questions. What do you think the connection to the Passover is? Why did John bother to mention it? 2, how did those Genesis and Job passages, how do they shape our understanding of Jesus' walking on the water? And 3, how do you think it's best to translate John's Gospel? Would you have left the ego eimi in Greek? Would you have translated that as I am, more literally, or it is I, which makes a little bit more sense in English but loses some of the deeper meaning perhaps? And 4th, how is this good news for you and I today? Okay, so love to hear what you think. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.